Okay guys, Cubo here. Just thought I'd do a quick little video of me out tinkering with my shotgun. I've got a little single point ambidextrous sling mount on it. When I put that on, I had to take the big bolt out of the receiver, and I didn't re-lock tight it, so it got a bit loose. And after I put a few hundred rounds through it, so I thought I'd better change that before I needed it in a hurry. And the stocks were hanging all over the show. It wasn't too bad, but starting to get a bit frustrating when you rattles around. And one of my friends caught the webbing in his hand in there in the recoil when we were shooting it, and he took a good cut out and bled pretty well. But I just sort of today just thinking about this particular firearm because and it sort of made me think about the sort of Second Amendment assault weapons bans, things that are going on in the States. So I thought I'd just do a quick little video on my opinion on them. Like over here we aren't allowed really to carry loaded firearms, licensed or not, unless we have a legitimate reason. So we've got to be like transporting them to or from somewhere, taking them, you know, like you can't just be like, oh, I'm driving around with my shotgun because I feel like it. Even if you were driving with your shotgun because you felt like it, that would pay not to say that to the police officer. You would be far better off saying, I've just been to the gun shop to look at new rear stock options and I want to see what I can get, or I just picked it up from the gunsmith, or I picked it up with my mate who borrowed it, or something like that. You're also not allowed to leave them in a car unattended. Doesn't matter if they're loaded, unloaded, disassembled, you really shouldn't. Mainly for the fact that if someone broke into your car, they then have a gun, and we've got a few laws over here to try and stop that from happening for criminals getting firearms anyway. So the less you help them out, the better for everyone else, which is also where I'm going to go in a second. But yeah, so you're not really allowed to carry them. You can. I'll carry mine like this if I'm going somewhere and I'm allowed to, because another thing is you're not allowed to carry a firearm loaded. It's not allowed to have rounds in it, and it's not allowed to have loaded magazines with it if it's a magazine-fed firearm. So detachable box magazines, fixed magazines, anything like that. Like Ruger 1022, if you had one 10-round magazine loaded up with even like 2 rounds, you got pulled over, the cop wanted a check or something, you can get in a lot of trouble for carrying effectively a loaded firearm. Pump-action shotguns, double-barrel shotguns, lever-action shotguns, anything with a tube magazine, relatively easy to get rounds into it quick, which is another reason why, like, usually if I'm driving somewhere I'm allowed to take a gun, be this, or my double barrel or something like that. Not hard to, you know, and you're away laughing, that's live round it. So it doesn't take much to get it sort of ready to rock. If I did need it in a hurry, which hopefully I wouldn't, but you never know. But just on the sort of topic of our gun laws, quite a lot of places have said that New Zealand has some of the best, most simple and cost-effective gun laws in the world, which I would tend to agree with. We have very low murder rates, very low amounts of firearms used in crimes. I'm not saying they're not out there, I'm not saying it doesn't happen, because it does, it happens everywhere, even when there's full gun bans. But there's sensible measures put in place to try and keep that number as low as possible. Like licensing of firearms owners, we've had licenses for a wee while now, mainly because we used to have gun registration. Didn't work, was really expensive, there was lots of cock-ups with getting people arrested that didn't deserve it, mainly because you'd have to have every firearm registered to you. So if you were carrying, say I had this, and Joe Bloggs, police officer, pulls me over, says, oh yeah, that's, you know, and you say, as you do when the police officer pulls you over and you've got firearms, you say, I've got a gun in the car, I've got a license for it, or whatever, I'm legally allowed it, it's unloaded, or it's loaded, or whatever. Just thought I'd tell you, my serial number on this is under my side saddle, so I can't read it off, and you won't be able to see it anyway, but say the serial number is visible. Sometimes you print it on the barrels as well. It's on the barrel of my my 22, my Model 600 Winchester. Say the cop says, you know, like what's like I'm going to check that this is the firearm registered to you, and then they'd call up, ring it in, and say like 600 blah 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 dash blah blah blah, and they go, no, that's not registered to him. I'd then get arrested and get in a lot of trouble. potentially just for the fact that he saw model 600 and thought it was part of the serial number, thought the 600 was, or leave a number off, or like that was one of the main reasons I got a bit sick of firearms researching. It was a fuck around. Like right now, if I walk into a gun shop, I pull my wallet out, I want to buy ammunition or a firearm, pull my wallet out, show them my firearms license, done. I walk out the same day, like right there on the spot, doesn't matter, don't need a little background check. Easy. If you're doing a face-to-face transaction with someone else, you say, yeah, I'd like to buy this gun, here's my firearms license. They go, oh yeah, that's cool, give it back to you, money, gun, cool, done. It's pretty simple. Like, it's not as complicated as some people seem to think it is, which is fine for me. Like, it's easy, it's a reasonable measure in my opinion. Safes as well, so safe storage of firearms. I think as a firearms owner, if you're responsible enough to own firearms, these are, saying they're just a tool is one thing, but they're also a very powerful instrument. That's why people like to have them so much, because it's it can do a lot. It can protect you, it could feed you, it can do a whole lot of stuff. If you're responsible enough to look after something that can take a life relatively simply, you should be responsible enough to store them correctly, to keep them away from people who potentially would use it for the wrong things. So especially if people spend thousands and thousands of dollars on their firearms and they can't spend $300 or $400 on a safe, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. I've got a safe and a rack. I've got a safe out at my mother's house, which is where I keep most of my firearms, and then which is out in the country. And then I've got, and my stepdad has his in there as well. And at my house here, I've got a rack that holds 3. So at the moment, I've got my 22, my 870, and my M14 here. And I don't even know if I can keep the M14 here. I'll probably move it out there at some stage. But those are the guns that I've been using most recently. This and the 22 for just because I do a lot of pest control on rabbits and possums and things like that. And the M14, pardon me, just because it's fun. I just got it, so I've been shooting it a bit. But I don't see a problem with mandatory safes or the licensing. You don't need to register firearms. Over here we sort of proved it didn't work, it's expensive and it's fucking annoying. We register handguns still, because there's not a whole lot of people with them, and that was because mainly over here they recognise firearms for a sporting purpose rather than defence. Not to say that people haven't used them before and for self-defence and it's been perfectly legally acceptable, but they register handguns and you've got to go through a few hoops to want one, because they don't see. The only reason you should actually want a handgun over here, they say, is because you should be wanting to target shoot with one. So there's a minimum barrel length as well, it can't be less than 3.9 inches. So I think the sort of the smallest kinds of handguns we can get are like Glock 19s and those firearms of that ilk. So no little snub-nosed revolvers or pocket pistols or anything like that. Yes, which is a shame because they're kind of cool. You can get some stuff like that on a collector's license, but it's usually got to be disabled in some sort of way. But yeah, I just think maybe a little bit of compromise would be necessary for those pro-gun in the States. I'm not saying that it's all bad to be able to, stand up for it, but if you're just going to stick your head in the sand just as much as the sort of left-wingers are about how if they ban guns or whatever, that it's going to stop crime, then that's not going to help anyone. You've got to sort of, basic measures put in place like that can save lives. Like, I would be certain that at some stage they'd lessen the fatality rate, which is a desirable effect, I'd say, for everyone. Have less innocent people getting killed from careless use of a firearm, even if it's been stolen off you. You're slightly, I'd say, responsible for that, just for the fact you didn't take basic due diligence to protect it from getting in the wrong hands. That's my personal opinion. Take it with a grain of salt if you want. Make a reply if you want. I don't agree with guns being banned or anything like that, especially not in the States or anywhere. But I'm just saying that's my opinion. Maybe you need a little bit of compromise, just so you can actually get to keep what you like. If you're not doing anything really that wrong, then I don't really see the problem with it. It's, most people probably have these measures in place already. At least that way it shows those liberals sort of you're trying, or like if they don't think you are, then it looks like you are doing something more, and that might shut them up and get them off your case. But anyway, hopefully that gives you something to think about. But righto, keep going.